international broadcaster across our entire language spectrum. A national, regional and international digital presence backed by the most experienced and top-notch broadcast professionals in the industry.
A very good evening to you.
The new look Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is truly ahead of the pack. Turn to the mother of broadcasting in Kenya for stories that resonate with our identity, our aspirations as a people united in purpose. Real stories of hard work, of passion, of creativity, of big dreams. Stories that cement our nationhood. Stories that bring us together as one. We take pride in our shared heritage and destiny. KBC. Informing, educating and entertaining Kenyans as one nation. KBC. Kenya's listening. Kenya's watching.
It is the 28th day of July 2021. Good morning and welcome to KBC Newscheck. Glad you could make time for us. My name is Njue, welcoming you for the next 2 hours or so. We'll be delving into matters politics and what is the status of politics in the country. We have seen a lot happening in the last couple of days, and beginning from yesterday, we saw ODM lead over 50 leaders in terms of governors, MPs, senators, or even MCAs, and artists, and also business moguls to ensure that artists or musicians have something in their pockets. But of course there was politics. A lot of politics was talked about, and of course the last couple of days has also seen a lot of political movements. We're talking about parties who want actually to eject themselves from the NASA coalition, and of course we have formations that are coming up each and every day. That is what we will be discussing, and of course when we have some time we will be looking at matters economy, because of course a lot of Kenyans are not thoroughly and actually happy about the state of Kenya in terms of the economy. We'll be looking at that, but to help me drive that is a political analyst and strategist, Martin Andati. Karibu sana, Martin.
Thank you.
It's been a while. Hatujaonana bwana.
Long time.
How have you been?
No, I'm okay, but I've been coming with Safin and the other guys when you're not here. Yeah.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
First things first.
Yes.
Yesterday we saw ODM leader Raila Odinga in the mountain. Of course, politics was not the main dish. Artists were, but of course leaders there did talk a lot about politics. How do you interpret yesterday's meeting in Muranga?
Politics was the excuse. The main issue was politics. Raila is a politician, and the people who are with him are politicians, and most of those musicians sing political songs anyway. So they had to use the occasion to be able to do politics. And of course they are trying to penetrate the mountain. You know, after the Kiamba by-election, which was hotly contested and marginally lost by Jubilee. You know, now we have two Jubilees. The Kieleweke one, I think we should call it Jubilee A, and then Jubilee B, which is now calling himself UDA. So after one faction of Jubilee lost to the other faction, marginally, it gave some hope to the people who are against William Ruto in the mountain, because they had been intimidated and made to believe that William Ruto and the UDA brigade were having as much as 90% of support. But the numbers from Kiambaa spoke otherwise. They told us a story of that the mountain is evenly split, almost 50-50, 50-49, which is close. So it has given them impetus, and they have a feeling that if they work on the other 49% who are not supporting William Ruto and UDA, possibly they can translate that support to Raila Amolo Odinga. Because the Jubilee wing, calling itself Kieleweke, wants to go into coalition or into bed with Raila Odinga's ODM. So that is part of what you saw happening yesterday. Because time will tell whether that will happen or not.
There's a lot of speculation whether ODM leader Raila Odinga will be seeking the top seat. But yesterday, of course, he did not mention that. And of course, a lot of politicians, we saw Mount Kenya leaders talk about endorsing, or what in quotes, endorsing Raila Odinga for the top seat. But he steered clear of that and talked about for the next couple of days or weeks, they will be having a unity tour with the President of the Republic.
Raila is sending mixed signals, but all the indicators are that he wants to run. The only challenge is he's torn in between, because he knows his numbers are not looking good, especially with the collapse of NASA, which, NASA was dead, but now they are performing the burial rites. So after they finish the performance of the burial rites by officially exiting from the coalition, then Raila now has a tough task, because the exit of Kalonzo Musyoka basically means Raila cannot get the solid block vote he got from Ukambani. Last time he got 95% of Ukambani, largely courtesy of Kalonzo Musyoka as the tribal kingpin. So if Kalonzo is not with him, he is trying to reach out to the governors, but the governors, the three governors, are sending mixed signals. One time they want to talk to him, the next minute they are not sure whether they want to work with Raila. Then the exit of Musalia and his ANC brigade, then the exit of Wetangula, makes it quite a bit difficult to sell Raila in Western. When you talk to the voter, the ordinary voter in Western, he tells you that there is an element of fatigue with supporting Raila, and he is not able to deliver, to reach where he promises that he'll take the people, Canaan. So the general feeling is that if Raila gives it a stab, it will be very difficult for the Western, especially Mlembe Nation, vote to go to him. If the options are between Ruto and Raila, the people are openly saying that they will support Ruto. If Musalia is also at a crossroad, because the community has pushed him that he must run. And there is Mohisa Kitui waiting on the wings. In the event that he falters, Mohisa throws his hat in the ring. So it's not easy. So the exit of the two Mlembe sons and the exit of Kalonzo, basically, and Isaac Ruto exited long time and joined Jubilee. So that makes it very difficult, because Raila and his team, ODM team, are doing basic arithmetic, which I will call simplistic. They are thinking in 2 dimensions. This election needs people who can think in 3 or 4 dimensions. Of course, not many people have that capacity. So if you don't have capacity, you hire people who have the capacity to think for you, of course, for a fee, at a fee. So when they were doing simple arithmetic, that you get NASA together, then you add Kieleweke, then you add Deep State. And of course, Peter Kenneth is, there are allegations around there that he sold his bank where he was with Rachir because it's not an allegation. It's an open secret out. So they believe him and the Mount Kenya, the Murang'a tycoons, can marshal some 6 billion or so. So with that, then that is equals to a Raila presidency.
Okay.
But you know, the numbers are not as easily done the way they are looking at them that way.
And indeed, talking about the numbers, yesterday the Mount Kenya leaders more or less endorsed Baba, but looking at what they were saying is they spoke in parables. Perhaps we can first of all listen up to what the leaders had to say yesterday during the Murang'a artists. As you said, it was a political gathering, but it was actually an artist meeting. But first of all, let's hear what the leaders had to say in regards to politics yesterday.
Mungu atasafisha Raila kwa sababu mambo ambayo amekuwa akifanya Kenya hii hakuwa anajifanyia yeye mwenyewe, alikuwa anafanyia Jamhuri ya Kenya. Tunataka utembee pembe zote za hapa Central.
Saa ingine kuja lala huko, enda kanisa Gatanga, zunguka watu wa kuone hapa Mlima Kenya, ili watu wajue hii jamba.
That was Peter Kenneth and of course Maina Commander, and there are other leaders who did speak, also notable including governors like Ndiritu. We also had Waiguru. But the Mount Kenya leaders, they spoke in parables, and to some point they even used the native language, Kikuyu, to kind of endorse Baba, but they were not extremely clear on the endorsement.
Because they are not sure whether that is what Uhuru wants. All those fellas are looking at what Uhuru say. So they have issues with William Ruto. And most of them lost elections, which were botched at the primary level. So most of them have a feeling, Maina Commander, Dennis Waweru, Peter Kenneth, they have a feeling that William Ruto, who was in charge of the Jubilee nominations, rigged them out. That is what they say out there. So there are those issues. Then there are those who feel they don't like him. You know, remember even Nderitu Muriithi lost the nominations, but went in as an independent and won. So they have issues. So they are trying to come out and see if they can support Raila Odinga. But at the same time, they are not very sure whether Uhuru is for that move. Because the question is, Uhuru and Raila go to Kisumu and you see the kind of reception he gets in the lake. Why isn't Uhuru courageous enough to take Raila to the mountain?
Good question.
Because if he is openly supporting him, and if he has decided to endorse him, he should have taken him to the mountain, the way they go together. But interestingly, all through, when it comes to the lake, there are two of them in the lake. When it comes to the mountain, Raila does not go with Uhuru. He goes with these lesser political mortals. So that leaves questions, because none of those guys has a kind of influence. Even with the issues around the mountain, Uhuru still will have a big say. Although it can be counterproductive. You know, going with Uhuru can help you, but it can also injure you. So I'm sure those are some of the questions they are trying to toy with. But there's quite a bit of work for that faction too, because ODM on its own, even with a fractured Jubilee calling itself Kieleweke, they can't marshal the numbers. They will struggle to get 3 million votes, max 3.5. You can't win the presidency with that kind of numbers. So they have quite a bit of work to do, because Raila will be bringing in largely the Luo Nyanza bloc, which for all intents and purposes is still intact. He will pick pockets of support in Kisii and pockets in the former Western. And that is it. And a bit of cost.
Of course,
that one cannot give him the kind of numbers that he will not go beyond 4 million votes, I can tell you. So, and you see, the mountain is split. But the question is, where is the other 50% going? Is it with Uhuru? Will it agree to go with Raila? But of course, it's early now to speculate. You know, the coalitions, there will ultimately be coalitions. What we know is Ruto will be in one, and Ruto doesn't want a coalition. Because, you know, Ruto is operating on a master-servant kind of arrangement. You can't do coalitions with servants. He wants to look at the others like workers. So he's the boss, the only boss up there. You know, a coalition must be more or less of equals. But you see, William Ruto with Moses Kuria, with the others, with the Njue, I mean, there's no coalition. So, and you see, you've noted he's not very keen on talking coalition. He wants them to be in one party.
Perhaps he might,
because he believes in one party. Yeah, you know, he believes in the Kano arrangement, where you have a party and you have a strong man. You know, he's a student of Moi and a student of Raila, so he wants a party, and he's the boss. So everybody else is a servant. But you know, that kind of arrangement cannot win you elections. Not now. You see, even Jubilee was a coalition of him and Uhuru and their two tribes, the duopoly. NASA was a coalition of Raila, Musalia, Kalonzo, Weta. NAC was a coalition. So from 2002, there is no single party which has won elections. Even Jubilee was a coalition before they tried to turn it into a party, and you can see how it's ending. So whichever way, William Ruto without a coalition cannot win power. The other, Raila now is in a dilemma because the prospects of Kalonzo, Wetangula and Musalia agreeing to support him are not there. They are very slim.
Yeah. And perhaps before we look at the options, because there are many, yesterday's meeting, over 50 leaders, and most of them allied to the Mount Kenya region. And a couple of years back, that was unheard of for the ODM leader actually to, of course, to gather that kind of support. Yesterday, of all those leaders, they were actually keeping tabs with exactly what is happening. From 1st of June, the head of state has been making a lot of development tours. They started out in Kisumu together. They've been to the coast together. They were in Kambani together. And we also expect, as Raila yesterday talked about, he talked about unity, unity, unity. He steered clear of the 2022 succession politics. Perhaps we can first of all hear what he had to say yesterday.
Alafu lazima tutakwenda huko upande wa Western. Alafu tunaenda Pwani. Tunaenda kila mahali ya kuunganisha Kenya iwe kama kimoja. Uhuru unasimama pande ile, Raila pande hii.
Yes, the ODM leader did decide to steer clear of course, all the Mount Kenya leaders that were there. Do they make it easier for Raila to climb the mountain, in your words?
I don't think so, because you know, Uhuru demonized Raila for over 20 years, and he made the people know that he used to say Kemodo, the Mugoroki thing, madman. So when you talk to the people in the mountain, they ask you, did he take him to Mathare to be treated? That is the masses, the ordinary mwananchi in the mountain would ask you. Two, Uhuru has not taken the trouble to explain to the mountain why the sudden about turn. The about turn on the arrangement with Ruto, the about turn on the issues he had been telling Raila, because telling people about Raila. Because he was telling the people, elect me so that I sort this guy out. Of course, they created fear. Part of it was political propaganda, that a Raila presidency will mean that the Kikuyu interests will be messed up, including people living in their houses for free. And of course, that was explained with what had happened in 2007, 2008. Of course, there are people who lost property. And up to now, there are even people who have fellas living in their houses for free in places like Dandara, in places like Kibra, which is not right. So, and that was out of the 2007, 2008 experience. So they instilled fear in the people from the mountain that if you allow this, your goose is cooked. So Uhuru has not taken the trouble to go and explain to the people that look, this guy suddenly now has become my brother. So he needs to go and sit with the leaders and explain why. You remember when he was in Sagana, the people were fairly angry initially, but he told them, have I endorsed Raila? Then it calmed the nerves. Up to now, Uhuru has not come out to say he has endorsed Raila.
Now, Raila also has not come out clear to say that he will be on the ballot in the 2022.
He is not. You see, that's where now the dilemma is. Raila is also in on crossroads, because Raila has done politics. He's been around from 1992, elective politics from 1992. So he understands. When he ran in 1987, he could only get the Luo vote. And you know, he struggled even here. He had to register all the Luos in Langata then for him to get the seat. Of course, when they got into marriage with the Luya nation, and then they played games, they managed to get more seats. Of course, at the expense of the Luya nation. Then now they brought in the Kalenjins, they brought in the Kambas. So the numbers increased. Of course, in 2007, they had the Pentagon, and he was running for 1 against 1. And that is the election that is believed he won. All these other ones, of course, there have been claims, but they are claims you cannot prove. But he ran a very formidable, the most formidable campaign he ran was in 2007. But the exit of Ruto in 2013, when Ruto ganged up with Uhuru, affected his numbers, and you could see the way he was struggling. The exit of Ruto and Musalia affected him, because now Kalonzo came back on board, but Musalia exited, ran on his own, then Ruto was the other side. So it was very difficult for him to win the election in 2013. He ran again with Musalia now on board, and Kalonzo and Wetangula. But the numbers just marginally went up. But you know, that other side had also made quite a bit of inroads in these other vote blocks. They had picked some of the people who were with Musalia, now are with Uhuru and Ruto. So he's been trying to see what to do with the numbers. But you know, I think what he is trying to do is to see whether he can marshal the numbers in the mountain.
Okay, and of course we're going to get into the numbers.
Well, time will tell.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And in case you just joined us, this is KBC Newscheck, and today we are looking at the state of politics. And of course, of late, we have witnessed a lot of talks in terms of coalitions, in terms of mergers, and that is what we are looking at today. And right now, I'm also joined by another political strategist, Dr. Juliet Kimemia. Karibu sana, Daktari.
Thank you very much.
Apologies, you couldn't make it when we had
when
started.
You're doing the introduction.
Yes, but I'm quite sure you have been following up what has been happening in the Kenyan politics, and more specifically yesterday. We do remember yesterday we had an artist meeting. I was keenly following, because I'm also an artist, so I was keenly following to know exactly what was on the table for the artist, and of course politics that did take over each and everything that was there. But away from that, you did follow up and it was an initiative of course, the ODM leader. And we know very well they had the blessing of the head of state, because he is the one who did marshal troops and numbers when it comes to the artists and their cries, and when it comes to the Skiza tunes. What do you make of the politics of the day yesterday?
What impressed me is the innovation around popularizing a candidate, because I happened to watch most of it, and as every artist came on stage, the first thing was, today we are doing Thanksgiving, and we are thanking our president for listening to us, for taking the motion that was taken to him by Honorable Raila Odinga. So Raila Odinga comes in as the one who actually made the president listen to them. And then there was the third most mentioned name was Gladys Wanga, because she's the one who, I think, introduced the motion in Parliament and marshaled the troops to vote for the Skiza tune to be less taxed, or the percentage that is retained by the artist to go up by 50%. So that packaging was extremely unique in the political space, and it presented Baba as a person who is working, initiating, following up. He was describing Gladys as his foot soldier. Even when Gladys stood up to talk, she claimed she's Baba's foot soldier. And
Which she is.
And though it was packaged, it was very interesting. And were it not for Baba and Gladys Wanga, then the artist would be languishing in poverty. They stood up to acclaim that their lives have changed because of the influence of Baba on the head of state through the parliament. And as the political leaders stood up one by one, there was this, at first, very coded support and welcome to Baba. Then I think it's Kanini Kega who just went blunt and said, it's time for us to pay Baba. Because he even said Kibaki Tosha, that is 20 years ago. Na ile deni ya zamani ndio watu wa Mulima watafanya nini? Watalipa kwanza. Then when Waiguru stood up, she said, Mulima votes as a block to the man. So to me, I think having the artist support Baba and knowing the influence artists have on people's mindset, they were even they even offered in return to compose several songs in favor of Baba and to do several road shows in favor of Baba. So I think the entry of Baba into the mountain is well thought out, very strategic, and touching those who really influence people.
And Doc,
yes.
Yesterday, the leaders, as you said, you used a very good word, coded. I used parables. The leaders there, they even used their native language, something that we had discussed with Andati here. They kind of endorsed Baba, despite the fact that he has not come out clearly to say that I will be on the ballot in the year 2022. What do you make of the leaders who spoke, and especially the leaders from Mount Kenya?
Like I said, I think these last 2 weeks have been quite interesting, because last week we saw Oka team meeting, the four of them, Kanus, Gideon Moi, Weta, Mudavadi, Kalonzo, and soon after we saw Kalonzo officially declaring that they have left NASA. Then here we are seeing ODM and Jubilee. So what came out yesterday was like there's going to be two coalitions. There's a coalition of Jubilee and ODM, and there is the One Kenya Alliance on one side. So I think now whatever Ruto will come up with will be a third coalition. That is what I saw in my small political understanding, and I saw serious strategy around the conversations that have been happening. So the question that is lingering in my mind is, KANU is in Jubilee as a coalition. Already they have a coalition, and that's why Pogisho is the leader of majority. He's a KANU elected senator. He's the leader of majority in a house where KANU has only 3 seats, including all nominated, because there's only one nominated and 2 elected. That is Pogisho and the chair, Honorable Gideon Moi. So that is a demonstration of the Jubilee coalition at work and practically. So now when I see Jubilee and ODM, and then on their side Wiper is with KANU, it is both confusing and eye-opener, so that people now we start watching as things unfold. Otherwise, there's a serious contradiction there.
Indeed, and that I would like us to also look at that on, I think it was on Monday, when Wiper did talk about exiting the NASA coalition. On Thursday last week, ANC leader did talk about ANC exiting the NASA coalition. But on the other hand, we see Jubilee is warming up to ODM, and they're still in a coalition, the 2017 coalition with KANU, and KANU is in Oka already.
You know, Oka is not a formal coalition.
Yes,
it's an alliance.
It is. They have a cooperation agreement. You see, even Wiper is legally still in NASA, but now Wiper signed a cooperation agreement with Jubilee, not a coalition agreement. You know, there's a difference.
Yes,
cooperation and coalition.
Yeah.
So NASA is still part of Wiper is still part of NASA, but now they have started the process of withdrawing, because when you get into a coalition agreement, you must deposit the instruments with the register of political parties.
And still on the
because
same,
that is legally binding.
Perhaps you can hold the thought so that we may hear what Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka had to say in regards to Wiper exiting the NASA coalition.
Useful consultation as Wiper Democratic Movement this evening, culminating in our decision to exit NASA and welcome a new formidable coalition, which coalition in my view will be spearheaded by the One Kenya Alliance.
Speaking, and perhaps we can touch on what Kalonzo Musyoka had to say and the repercussions. We know very well Deputy Minority Leader Mutula Kilonzo has that seat because of a coalition agreement. What happens now that they want to pull out? They have already started the process of pulling out from the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. What happens to all the leaders who have been brought in by the NASA coalition?
They remain in those positions. I don't know why they don't understand English. Yeah, because you see, they didn't get those positions because they belong to ODM. They supported ODM, and the positions belong to the coalition. So ODM cannot abrogate itself those positions. You know, even when they kicked out Wetangula, it was wrong, because Wetangula campaigned strongly for Raila, and he has stood with him in 2013 and 2017.
He's a partner of the NASA
he was a partner. So the understanding was that Raila will get the presidency, Kalonzo Musyoka will get deputy presidency. Musalia was supposed to be made chief prime. Of course, I rubbished it because there was no such a post. It doesn't exist. So they were duped during the day. But Wetangula was supposed to get the next available seat, which was leader of minority. So as a gentleman, Raila should not have done what he did. But you know, that time he was excited. And Raila makes errors of judgment, like the one he did. He antagonized his partners. He thought that now that he had gone to bed with Uhuru will transfer the mountain to him. But you see, he forgot that Uhuru will be exiting. So if you are leaving the scene, you can't be as influential as you are when you are running as a candidate. 2, Uhuru was also looking for survival. And he has also a lot of issues to deal with, both political, economic, and all that. And you saw the report out there. So the assumption, Raila now thought that he doesn't need his colleagues. So he started mistreating them. He even refused to share the political party's funds. You see now he has softened. The insults and abuses that Sifuna, my younger brother, was throwing around, he has had to stop. But you see, the damage is already gone. And you heard Musalia say it. There is a deficit of trust. There was a lot of dishonesty. And ODM would rubbish and abuse them. You see, like even in Matungu, it was not strategic for ODM to run a candidate. So Raila should have seen the writing on the wall. The moment he saw the mountain was not embracing him, he would have retracted and not run a candidate in Matungu, the same way they didn't run a candidate in Ukambani. So that, and gone out and shared that political party's fund, and possibly even made peace with Wetangula. So that he has a possibility of recrafting NASA. That way it would have been very easy. But you see, there is so much bad blood. So even if now he accedes to give them part of the political party's fund, which he has, the damage has already been done. So you have abandoned the team you had, which pushed the numbers, and they were at 47%. They had a deficit of 3. Now you start off. I mean, there is no way Kieleweke will give Raila the numbers that Kalonzo brought in Ukambani. There is no way the governors who are with him, largely is Oparanya, and you saw in Matungu, Oparanya struggling to deliver the seat. Put in a fortune, but still lost. And you know, now if you listen, I come from Western, and I interact with those fellas on a daily basis. Oparanya's influence in the Luya nation is very minimal currently. So sitting with those kind of people and cheating himself that they are going to give him numbers from the Luya nation is a lie. And you saw when Ruto exited from the Pentagon, Raila assumed that he can go to the colleges direct, and he tried to go with Sally and Henry Kosgei. It didn't work. The numbers were dismal. The exit of Wetangula and Musalia, if he runs and he expects numbers there, it will not go beyond 10%. So that is real. The same in Ukambani. So where are the numbers to replace those other numbers? You know? And you know, the question, the fact that Kiamba showed that the mountain is split does not mean that those who are against William Ruto are necessarily for Raila. You know, people, you need to understand people who understand numbers. And I told you, you need people who can think in 3 dimensions or 4 dimensions. These ones are thinking in 2 dimensions. So it does not mean that if this one does not agree with this one, then necessarily he will support you. There could be other options. And that's why you see even the likes of Akina Musalia. You saw the kind of support Musalia received over the weekend when he was in Nyandarua. You've seen the numbers who turn up when he goes to, when he was in Nyeri the other side, the other day. He is also receiving quite some support. Of course, she mentioned, my sister here mentioned the issue of Kanini Kega. Kanini Kega was with Musalia the other time, and he endorsed him. He was also with Gideon Moi. He also endorsed him. He was now with Baba. He endorsed him. Tomorrow he will be with Kalonzo Musyoka, and he will still endorse him. So I mean, yes. Where is the honesty in all this? At least Minor Commander,
it's a matter of interest, as you know,
and Peter Kenneth have been consistent. Them have been Baba all through, and Waiguru. At least give it to them. Although Waiguru has also been meeting Musalia, you know. So, you know, of course, it's a transfer window. You know, people are looking for relevance. But, you know, the good thing is one. If you are a sitting member of parliament, if you are a sitting senator, if you are a sitting governor, seeking re-election. If you have not delivered,
Yes.
the Omshombas of this world, you know, they are running away. They are going to Tangatanga thinking that is going to help them get re-elected. They will not survive. You know, the electorate are not fools.
Yes.
If you have not delivered on your mandate, you see, like if you go to Kiambu, they tell you Mshahara, because the first thing she did was to ask for a salary increment before they even got sworn in.
Yes.
So the masses are not stupid. You know?
Doc, do you agree with what Andati is talking about? And still on the same, we have Oka on one side, and we also have Jubilee and ODM who have pledged. Who have pledged. Let's just use the word warming up to each other in terms of a coalition to field a candidate in the 2022 elections. Where does even that leave UDA? Because looking at all, can we still in Jubilee coalition based
Very
on 2017,
active.
very active, and we have seen KANU also in Oka. If they decide to work together, that is Jubilee, ODM and the Oka. Of course, everybody is bringing something to the table. We were speaking with Andati earlier, talking about Gideon Moi, the rift and the money bags that he brings. Whether he's going to use it or not is a question for another day. Do you think they could make a formidable coalition that would actually be guaranteed a win?
It's not just a coalition, it's a machinery. So the pundits are putting it that the machinery is being assembled so that there is a serious onslaught against UDA and affiliate parties. But I want to remind my brother of what we have seen in the last 20 years, so that you move from thinking that the numbers that played role in 2013, 2017 are going to be relevant. In the year 2002, when Raila said Kibaki Tosha, they were with Kibaki, Charity Ngilu, Wamalwa, you know, all this other team against Uhuru and William Ruto, KANU. In the 2005 referendum, Uhuru was in ODM with Ruto,
with Kalonzo,
with
Musalia,
with Raila, with Musalia. They defeated the sitting president in that referendum. 2 years later, Uhuru defected, I think, with Kalonzo.
Yeah, Kalonzo also defected.
They went and supported Kibaki. They left Raila with William Ruto and Musalia and Balala, and it was a serious, it was a very serious machinery that they had assembled. So they lost to Kibaki in 2008, 2007
in a disputed election.
Yeah, in a disputed because that powerhouse was real powerful. They really moved numbers, and like he said, that swearing in at night spoke volumes. Come 2013, Ruto abandons Raila, teams up with Uhuru.
Yes.
And they did that in 2017. So me, I'm not seeing any big deal with Uhuru working with Raila, because they have been the same faces. Somebody was saying same monkeys but different forest. So these drivers and mobilizers of numbers, they have their way of doing things, and we should not actually belabor trying to say that this will not work or this will work. We just need to watch them continue playing their forest games. So anything is possible. So even a Raila Uhuru machinery is very possible, because they were together in 2005 and they were able to defeat the referendum. So to me, I don't think the numbers of 2017 will be consistent come the next election. There is going to be a shift.
Yes.
The way Mountain supported Raila in 2002 when he said Kibaki Tosha, they will. It is going to be rejuvenated somehow, when it started yesterday. Because I've even seen a lot of comments in the WhatsApp groups, and people are like, hiya. People have called me because I am the organizing secretary of KANU.
So
in my county
about
right now the inboxes of aspirants,
Yes.
because they are like, now I think tunaona the other side, because you know UDA has been going around saying ni hamuna presidential candidate, ni hamuna mupango.
Yes.
So and the likes of Kabogo has been going around saying musipojipanga mutapangwa. So people have started you know, especially those who want to run.
Yes, and perhaps Martin, you can pick it from where Doc has left. Where I'm looking at the Kenya political crystal ball, and as things are, we're expecting Jubilee, ODM, and OKA to be perhaps work together. Where does that leave UDA and affiliate parties, if any?
UDA and affiliates, they are the common enemy. Raila was a common enemy in the other 3 elections. So now UDA and Ruto are the common enemy. Yeah, you've seen. Look at the messaging across the country over the weekend. You had Mohisa Kitui hammering bottom up. You have these guys hammering bottom up. You had Kalonzo hammering combo bottom up. So what does that tell you? Ruto is a common enemy. So of course in politics you don't say never. The only issue is the challenge is how do they settle on a presidential candidate? You see, if there is a stalemate between Musalia, Kalonzo and Raila, Raila can pull a rabbit from the back and say, look, if it's not me, then I'm not endorsing Musalia and I'm endorsing Kalonzo. Then he says maybe he's supporting somebody like Mohisa. Don't rule that out. Yeah, because you've seen Raila has been very close to Mohisa, and I know there are quite a bit of discussions going on. So I think Raila is exploring the possibility. You know, Raila has been in this game for quite some time, the way I told you, and he's looking at the scenarios. If he realizes that he cannot add his numbers, and he also realizes that he will lose to William Ruto. Of course, Raila will not want to exit the election having dishonorably by losing to William Ruto. But they will all laugh and enjoy if they have locked William Ruto out of power. So William Ruto has become the common enemy here. And that's why he's testing the waters. That's why you see, you asked, why is it Raila has not declared? He's been very ambivalent on his candidature because he's gauging the mood and testing the waters. And you know, they do polls quietly.
Is it the same thing that perhaps the Deputy President William Ruto is doing, because he hasn't even announced perhaps who will be his running mate or who are his affiliates in UDA?
No, William Ruto has already declared he's a candidate.
I'm talking about
he
his
has
running
been
mate
campaigning
and
for the last 9 years. He has no coalition partners. I told you, his is a master servant kind of arrangement. You can't take Moses Kuria and tell him that he's doing a coalition with William Ruto. You know, coalitions are supposed to be people of almost equal or slightly lesser weight. But you can't have people who have not much weight compared to you. They can't form a coalition. You know? So
what are in a TSP?
They are the Mwangi, Njue, Pep, and all that. He doesn't see them. They will be coming in as affiliates, but not coalitions. Yeah, that's why you saw him bulldoze Kiamba. And Kuria wanted to run a candidate. They realized giving Kuria Kiamba would give him more strength, so he becomes a problem. So you manage him now by running the party, your party yourself, direct, which they did. And you can see the fights between Rigathi and Kuria. Because Rigathi is directly in UDA. Kuria wants to come in through Pep. Of course, he has also now had his own issues. So he has now supported another party. But you see, there is no coalition here. They are coming in as affiliates to support him. And you know, that way they will not even have a say in whom he picks as a running mate. But you see, it's too early for him to talk about a running mate now. Although, that is one of the real headaches. You know, he was rubbishing BBI. But you know, BBI could have had its own issues. But BBI will also have helped sort out some of these issues for them. Because with an expanded executive, it was going to be very easy for Raila to form a broad-based coalition. That was the main aim of BBI. Transform Building Bridges initiative into a broad-based coalition. The same would have been very easy for William Ruto, because if you have 5 major posts to go around, it becomes very easy for you to form a coalition. Those who are not accommodated this side, they will run to you.
Here.
But now you have a duopoly. You have the American president executive. It's very difficult for you to form a coalition, let me tell you.
You can't
And you
please
have
everyone.
you will not please all these fellas. You have only 2 seats, the presidency and the deputy. If he picks a deputy outside the mountain, he has serious problems. If he picks a deputy from the mountain, what do you do with Coast? What do you do with Mukambani?
Yes.
What do you do with
Western.
Western? And you know, when you look at the numbers, and Dr. don't dismiss the numbers of the past. History will always tell us where we have come from, and it will inform where we are, and possibly guide us on where we want to go. Me, I do numbers virtually every day, so I understand. If you look at the numbers, the way they are seated, in 2013, Uhuru and Ruto got 50.07%. In 2017, they had 54%. The mountain is split almost evenly. So give Ruto 18 out of 35. 17 out of 35 are against him. And you see, the mountain constitutes 35% of the Kenyan vote. So if you subtract that 17 from 50.07%, here you remain with that 3%. If you subtract 17% who are against William Ruto from 54%, you remain with that 7%. So the mean of those two is 35%. So if you check William Ruto's numbers now, if an election were held today, he'll get 35% of the votes. Where does he get the other 15%? You need the entire Luhya block. And you know, the 54% which they got last time had pockets of the Luhya vote. The other numbers which can bring him close, but it will still not give him those numbers, is he must get the entire Ukambani block. Now, it means getting Kalonzo on board, plus all those governors, which is a tall order. And if you pick Kalonzo as a running mate, it means you can't pick a running mate from the mountain. So what do you give to the mountain? So it's not easy, even for Raila. That's why you can see they are all in a quandary. And I don't rule out the issue of now coming in for a compromise. But you know, that will be last minute. You remember in 2013, how the coalitions were formed. Today, Musalia is with Uhuru and Ruto. The next day, the demons have told Uhuru no. The next day, so of course there is going to be shifting. You know, he is a transfer window. The same characters you saw with Raila yesterday.
Just like
you will again see them with Musalia. You will again see them with Mugisa. You will again see them with Raila again. The same people. Because you know now what the people are trying to do is to get relevant. And then you know you have a whole bunch of second-term governors who cannot go back and vie again as governors, who are also hoping to ride on BBI. Now, most of them have realized there's no BBI, so they can't go back and become MPs, to become CSS. They can't go back and become deputy prime minister or prime minister. So where do they go? So there is a lot of fellas are spending sleepless nights. And that's what I'm telling you. The issue is not even going, let me tell you, this election will not even be won on who draws the biggest crowd. Forget it. You saw the Trump draw the biggest crowd. The person who is going to be president is the person who is able to build a broad-based
coalition.
The best.
You're right.
And that's why you need a genius. You need a guy who thinks in 4 dimensions to be able to tell you that have Njue here, have her here, have him there, and you know everybody is happy. If you are able to do that, then I can tell you for free because it's not you who will be running all over the country. Then when you have built a broad-based coalition, you also now don't interfere with the party primaries. You let, if the people tell you, we want Njue as our MP here, leave him. If they tell you they want Moses Kuria as a governor in Kiambu, irrespective of whatever party, as long as he's agreeing to support you for the presidency, let them have whoever they want. If they tell you we want to have Kabogo here as whatever, do it. If they tell you let Daktari become the women rep here and she's in Canada, support her. Or governor.
Yes.
So whatever the people tell you, that's what you do. That way, then you win it.
Yes, and now perhaps we have an aspirant for governor there, but Doc, looking at what Andati is saying and the semantics involved, where does that leave UDA? Some have claimed that UDA is just a passing cloud, it's just a passing wave, it's just a matter of time, and then everything will just fizzle out. But looking at the steals that it has been able to do in the by-elections that we've had, starting from Mombasa all the way to Juja, now we saw in Kiamba, we have
in
seen...
Juja, it's not UDA, it was PEP.
Yes,
Even
but they were supporting the
Yeah.
PEP candidate. I'm saying their footprints, yes?
I don't think so.
Where does that leave?
Indirectly, but they were not.
Because we
PEP
cannot,
candidate
Doc, we
had
cannot
run 3
assume,
times.
we cannot assume that the UDA is just a passing cloud. It's been able to steal from the backyard of the president, been able to go down to the coast and do something.
I support what my friend has talked about numbers.
Yes, they supported.
They supported. Yeah, but that was an independent candidate.
It was an independent candidate, and he voted with the government. He voted for BBI. He has never really come out openly to say that I owe my victory.
Are you guys saying that we need?
I owe my victory to UDA.
You can't push it away.
Yes.
You can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. Looking at the numbers in terms of victory. In the last 12 by-elections that have happened, UD has only won 3. So 3 out of 12 times 100 is what percent?
But we cannot overlook their presence.
Let's do maths.
Yes.
That's 25%. That is slightly less than a D.
It's an E.
D minus. There is a lot of hype around it, but that is not really the reality. If you look at the performance of UDA in Machakos, it was really disheartening, because the chairman of UDA is Mudhama from Machakos. He sponsored a candidate called Ngengele against the Wiper candidate, his wife. And I'm telling you, the outcome was just sad. 140,000 for Kavindu, 19,000 for Gengele, after spending so much. Kiamba, it was neck to neck. And there is a contest about, I come from Kiambu, there is a contest about tallying in 3 streams. And me, I'm hoping that the court will allow for a recount so that there can be closure. But it was 50-50, bumper to bumper. In terms of competition between Jubilee and UDA. And that's the same thing that happened in Rorie and in Nakuru, that London ward. It was, I think, 49%, 49.5%, and 50%. So that cannot really qualify UDA as a force to reckon with. Of course, they have mastered the hype in the media and drawing big crowds, but from the look of things, they are headed down there.
Okay, something that has really gained a lot of traction by UDA is their bottoms-up economy. Of course, there are others who are talking about the trickling down economy, and of course the latest one, made in Kenya economy. But they are riding on the wave of, the UDA is riding on the wave of hustlers and of course the bottoms-up economy. Let's just be very honest here. We've had all those formations, the bottoms up, the trickling down, and the same, we are just recycling the same leaders. Why is it that none of them has ever worked in the country as we speak?
You know,
they're just,
having studied entrepreneurship up to the highest level, science has it that people-centered development is what constitutes sustainable socioeconomic growth. And I think that's what everybody is trying to package. But there, I listened to Waishungwa yesterday on Citizen, and he was asked, "Can you define your bottom up?" He said, "No, we are going to deal with Mama Boga. We do it." And then there was some outrageous definition that was at Baituju. I don't want to mention because it was very sad. And then there was this Mudavadi demonstrating with a bottle. And then there were these very outrageous remarks and comparisons by Moses Kuria. And let me tell you, now speaking on behalf of Kenyans, ordinary Kenyans, we are extremely disappointed by our leaders, extremely disappointed by what they are proposing to do for us, because they are treating Kenyans like people who can't reason. They are treating Kenyans like people who are not right now suffering from the effect of COVID and stuff like that. They are treating Kenyans like objects that can be put on parking at the wait here, continue struggling here, then 2022 I will come and give you money. I think it is very, very important for our political leaders from across the divide to interrogate themselves as they seek to be elected into those big offices, as they seek power, to come up with practical solutions. And you know, we have a very beautiful system of government, program-based budgeting. So there's a program, a budget is allocated to it. But how does it get to the ordinary mwananchi there? How do programs that are run by the Ministry of Agriculture get implemented kule mashinani so that the desired impact is realized?
In short,
nobody
we have
is
the
talking
solutions, but
about
we're not
that.
implementing them. That is what exactly you're saying, though.
Nobody is talking about that. We have all these policies, like for example, maize. You know, maize, every homestead in this whole country allocates some portion for maize. So there is a whole budget process, fertilizer, quality seeds, blah, 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 blah. But you go to mashinani,
There's nothing.
there's nothing. The governor calls 5 people, 5 households in a neighborhood that has 1,000 households. You're given 2 kilos of maize maize seedlings.
Yeah.
And you're told, sasa hiyo ndio.
They take photos.
And they take photos. And they go to the media to say, tumepeana mbegu kaunti mzima. You know. So our political leaders, me being one of them, I think we need to be very honest. We need to fear the God who has created us and the God who has given us that opportunity to lead people. Can we see the budgets? Can we see the leaders who are proposing to be in office next year show us how the budget trickles down, gets to mwananchi, and the results, the outcomes are realized sustainably? I was talking about maize. So there seems to be a deliberate policy of making sure that there is crop failure, so that as soon as harvest time in December is here, it's declared, oh, we have shortage of maize, and we are allowing for import.
Beautifully.
In the meantime, people have thousands and thousands of acres of land in Congo where they plant maize, and there has to be created an avenue for them to come in. Is that somebody who cares about the ordinary mwananchi? Is that somebody who is working the bottom-up thing? I wish they can just start with maize and milk from Uasin Gishu, so that people get paid for really their hard work.
And that you deal with figures each and every day.
Yes.
We've had a bottoms-up economy trickling down and made in Kenya. How can the bottom-up economy trickle down to making Kenya great? We expecting a lot of promises other than that, the few that have already been made. We're expecting them to come up with so many things. Of course, we had a lot of stadiums and we had a lot of laptops and stuff. And of course, that was one of the things that never actualized. And we are hearing about the bottoms-up economy and other forms of rejuvenating our economy. Do you think they're just political promises, just as Doka said? We have all these, but we are
a season of lies.
But
You remember they told
Kenyans
us they are digital, and the other side was analog. Now we have moved from digital to wheelbarrow.
to wheelbarrows.
So
The same
is the
Kenyans
wheelbarrow more digital than anything else?
than a laptop.
And how do you give a graduate who has finished university a wheelbarrow?
Honestly.
What do they do with it? Why didn't Ruto give the daughter a wheelbarrow, the one who is a deputy ambassador, at 26?
As a wedding gift.
Yeah. Why didn't he give it to the son who is a lawyer? And why is he not? No. Why is he not giving those wheelbarrows in Rift Valley? Because he doesn't give them in the Rift.
He gives to
He
us.
gives them outside in Central,
to my village.
in these other places, but he doesn't give them in his home yard.
But Martin, he has gained a lot of traction with that.
Because he's a snake salesman. Yeah, you know, he's a shrewd propagandist. He plays on the minds of the poor, and you know, he promises false hope. Because you know, you can't say kazi ni kazi. Even cattle rustling ni kazi. Even conmanship ni kazi. But you know, a job must have some decency. True? True. Yeah. But you see, you can't just tell us, even at you know, me I sell sex on Koinange Street. So at hiyo ni kazi. It's a job, yes. But kazi si kazi. Have you seen any girl going to Koinange Street during the day and saying I'm a prostitute? Because at hiyo ni kazi. Are they proud of what they do? So you can't tell us that kazi ni kazi. A job must have some decency and must have some honor.
A definition.
Two, the poor people, you cannot tell, you know, kama ile ya Nyayo zamani, kaa pale pale ulivo, you know. Basically, that's what he's telling you, that if you are poor, remain the poor the way you are. So I'm leaving you with this wheelbarrow so that you remain the way you are. Why did he remain a chicken seller? Because if it was so good that selling chicken was so profitable that it has made him a billionaire, why do you abandon it to steal? Why does he want to be president? Kama kazi ni kazi, he should have remained deputy president and be content with what he is. But you are aspiring for higher office. So you can't say ati kazi ni kazi, hii ni mzuri, so let me just remain. You remain where you are.
What is the solution?
So,
because
they are peddling lies. Look at, and I'm glad, Doctor, you are debunking the issues here. You asked me about numbers. They have promised to give every poor fella out there 100,000 to do whatever they want to do.
Imagine.
Now, the fellas, the small-scale traders, the poor fellas out there, the borders, total 22 million. Look at the economic survey. 22 million people being given 100,000 each. Totals 2.2 trillion. In an economy of 3 trillion?
A big lie.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. So he's lying to Kenyans during the day.
In the same
So,
light,
you know, those are the good thing is they started early. And now Kenyans have an opportunity to interrogate. When you ask him, so what is this bottom-up economics? He will not tell you. Because, you know, you cannot invert a pyramid. If you invert a pyramid, it will collapse. You know? Because the majority of the people are down there. But what you need to do is go back to the basics. Do what Kibaki did. What did he do? He reduced the amount of government borrowing. So if the government reduces the amount of money they are borrowing from the money markets, the banks will have more money. So if the banks have more money, they lend to the private sector. If the private sector has more money, the productivity goes up. It is the private sector which drives, creates wealth, creates opportunities, creates jobs. The government does not create jobs. The government does not create opportunities. Two, we must invest in agricultural extension. Go back. Do you remember there were fellas out there who used to move around with a bicycle visiting the farmers? You know, basic things, you know. You must be able to subsidize AI services. Basic. We must be able to help farmers get subsidized seeds, subsidized fertilizer. You know,
And animal
then
feeds.
and animal feeds. Then we must also be able to stop imports. Why are we importing eggs from Uganda? Why are we importing oranges from wherever? Yet we have our own farmers here. So the farmer in Kiambu should be able to be guaranteed that if they produce eggs, they will have a market for their eggs. If the farmer in Mumias does not have a ready market for the sugarcane, they have no problem. Then they stop planting cane. That's how we have killed the likes of Mumias. So, and you know, the whole world, the world over, agriculture is subsidized. Two, the farmers are protected because it's not just about productivity, it's also about livelihoods. There are people who earn a living out of those livelihoods, and that creates a multiplier effect. So we need to do basic things. Stop some of those cheap sugar imports, stop some of those cheap maize imports, penalize, put serious duty on those issues. Then now we have huge infrastructure, which they have, which is good. But you see, infrastructure without corresponding productivity is futile. They rushed and took projects which have been done in 2025. They have done them now. The superhighway, the expressway is good. But go and look at Vision 2030. Does it tell you that you do it now? They exaggerated the cost of SGR by a whole 100 billion, which ended up in people's pockets. Now, prosecuting them is very difficult. So you get somebody else to tax the money that they have. So that if they pay money, taxes on that stolen wealth, that is part of the government, then the amount of taxes you are asking from the people reduces. So if you reduce the taxation, because why are you taxing the boda fella? Why are we putting another 16% on boda? Why are we putting a huge tax on gas? If you go to the move around the villages, I go to Western almost every 2 weeks. Like this Friday I'm going. When you move in the villages, you see the small meko mtungi, you know. They are all over in the villages being sold. Now, if you increase, putting that 16% means the price goes up by almost 300 bob. Now, you are discouraging people from using gas. You want them to go back to firewood.
Cutting the forest.
If they go back to firewood, they cut the forest. If they cut the forest, that's not clean energy.
Climate change.
Then there are issues of climate change.
Indeed.
When we should actually be encouraging people to use clean energy, to use this gas. So we should actually be reducing the taxes on even gas and increasing productivity. Three, let the government is the greatest consumer of goods and services, both national government and county governments. Why are we importing most of the stuff here, even these seats? You will be told they are from China. Yet we have boys here. I'm doing some socio-economic improvement program for fellas in the village. You help a few of them do a few houses here and there. I'm using local manpower. Most of the people, in fact, all the fundis I'm using, they are boys who have trained in the Youth Polytechnic, and they are very good. If you see some of those, I'll show you clips after the show. You will not believe that work has been done by those boys. So why don't we encourage those boys, encourage the local people, give them contracts?
Yes.
I remember one time we were giving road construction projects to the women groups to do roads. We give those small groups, the youth groups, the women groups, some of those contracts so that they also earn. We don't bring in so much stuff from China. COVID has taught us that we can even live. When they stopped the flight, we didn't die. We still lived without imports.
And improvised.
Yeah. So we improvised and we realized we can live on our local stuff.
We can do so much.
Yeah, we can do so much without necessarily spending our forex and without necessarily importing some of those things which we don't need to import.
Okay, indeed.
Yeah,
and of
right.
course, we will touch a lot on the economy before midday, because a lot of Kenyans, of course, are disgruntled with the economy and how things are running. Indeed, this is KBC Newscheck. We're taking our first breather, but we will be right back. Kindly remember, hit me up on Twitter at KBC Channel 1 at Njue, and also on our social media platform. I will be sampling some of your responses during and at the tail end of this show. We'll be back in a moment.
waomba wenzangu, kama vile mimi ufanya, weka pesa yako kwa panga account juu KDIC imekuhakikishia iko safe. Weka kitu kwa panga.
Be sure, check out for a KDIC sticker in your banking hall. KDIC, protecting your deposits.
The military is currently the epitome of management in this country. From Nairobi Metropolitan Services to the Kenya Meat Commission, the precision is evident. But what is that they build in character? Join me, John Jacob Kioria, this Wednesday on Prime Edition as I engage the General Robert Kariuki Kibochi, the Chief of Defense Forces, in his first ever interview with the media.
On Zurura, a tiny fish making a huge impact.
Rasta ni Ebola Argentina.
Fashion on Kenya's lakeside region.
With the one and only.
And a dance to keep the culture alive. That's coming right up on Zurura. Find your adventure.
Ndo ile Lake Victoria pale ninaiona vizuri sana.
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente, de otro modo nunca.
If Florencia revealed everything to my father, then that woman is very dangerous.
Yes, she's dangerous. Oh no, I can't do that, Ceci. Ivan will never come back. He will never forgive us. And that's why you should just forget him.
Where were you?
I just went to tell Juliana and Eloisa about what happened.
You were not supposed to tell anybody about what happened just yet. I wanted to wait until we had more information, Amaya.
Juliana also has the right to know what's going on. Mr. Mauro is her father as well.
De una forma diferente, de otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente.
Hayawi huwa mbiu ya mgambo imelia, na kwa kawaida ikilia kuna jambo.
Mgambo uliopo hapa ni rumba kavacha, odemba na sukus.
Tutakupromoshea midundo motomoto ya Afrika, iwe kutoka kaskazini, kusini, magharibi na hata mashariki.
Rumba is here in your living room.
Na popote ulipo.
This is Bridge of a Congo.
Nzambe ya sambe la kati, ako sambe la nani.
Right here on KBC Channel 1. Where?
Indeed, you're watching KBC and this is KBC News Check. Thanks indeed for joining us. In case you've joined us, my name is Njue, and Lensa Odingo has been our sign language interpreter. Now we have Anne Wangeshi being our sign language interpreter for this show. And perhaps before we go back to our conversation, let me sample some of your responses. Jafet Kimutai, you are also watching. Anastasia Macau, you say you're learning a lot. Thanks. He calls himself Uko Flani, and perhaps this is addressed to you. He says Martin, and that is wrong when he says, why does Ruto want to run for presidency if kazi ni kazi, yet he should have remained a chicken seller? Let me answer Mr. Ndati. 1, all Kenyans cannot vie for the presidency at the same time. 2, Ruto sold chicken while he was still young and his family was poor. After graduating from the university, he became a high school teacher before joining politics. And for your information, Ruto still sells chicken and
that is why
eggs.
He should continue selling chicken. So he is contradicting himself. You know, everybody aspires for something bigger. So you can't tell us that kazi ni kazi. Yeah. You know, if it's good, he should have remained like Muguku. You remember Muguku, the one in Kikuyu? He sold chicken and he left a lot of wealth.
Okay.
So, you know, but everybody hopes for something bigger. And the question is, how do you get where you want to go? Yeah. You know, you can't glorify certain things. Like you are a conman and you are saying kazi ni kazi. You know, even conmanship is kazi. But is it a decent job? Look at the characters around there. The wash characters. You know wash? Yeah. So hata hiyo ni kazi. Ni kazi.
All right. And Festus Ngetich accuses you of being biased. And Franco Walumbasa
Those are his
says,
opinions.
Yeah, bring KBC back to Uganda. Of course, that is something that we'll also be looking into. That is the matter we are discussing, and that is the state of politics in the country. Of course, despite the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic, politics have just found a way into Kenyans' houses. And I'm joined by analyst Martin Ndati and Daktari Juliet Kimemia, who are trying to break down the politics that have been in the country. And of course, there's a politics of coalition, there are politics of formations, and we are seeing formations starting to take shape, and the political drumbeats are picking up sound slowly but surely. And perhaps to go back to what we had before is the matter of economy has come up when it comes to all the coalitions or even the alliances that are merging, are even taking shape. Perhaps we can look at the options that the formations have. Of course, the president is not vying for any post as now, as we know, and we also know that the former premier Raila Odinga has not come out to say that he will be vying for the top seat. But from the look of things, he could be in one of the alliances. We have OKA, that is the One Alliance, the One Kenya Alliance, and of course we have UDA on the other side. What options do we have for these leaders? Perhaps we can first of all explore the options that the former premier has. He may decide, as things are, he's not vying for the presidency, but he may decide not to vie and be a kingmaker.
You cannot rule that out because I've told you, Ruto is a common enemy. Raila was a common enemy in the other 3 elections. 4 actually. This time it's Ruto. And you can see the messaging. And you know, Raila still has substantial support. He has the Luo bloc under lock and key, which is slightly more than 2 million votes, to about 2.2. He has his fanatics out there from the other communities, maybe another 1 million or so votes, 1.5. So he has close to 4 million votes, which you cannot take away from him. So he will be a major player in whatever formation. But you know, he does not, as of now, he does not have enough numbers to make him president because of what I have told you. 2, he's watching the space and he is exploring and gauging and looking at the numbers. You know, they also do polls quietly, and he is able, after he tries to make the forest in the mountain, they will definitely do polls. You know, there are the polls they'll put out here. There are also polls which they do for their own internal consumption. So he will see the way response, then see the response in the other blocks, and that will largely inform whether he runs or not. That's why you can see he's been very ambivalent about his candidature. But you cannot wish him away. He will be a major plank in the coalition that will take power. So those who are antagonizing him, those who are rubbishing him, those who are wishing him away, they are making a mistake. Another factor person you cannot wish away is Uhuru Kenyatta. Even if Uhuru just takes away 10% or 20% of the mountain, you are talking of 10% of 7 million votes, 700,000. That is the entire vote of Kakamega County. If you are, you talk of 20% is 1.4 million votes.
He's already been allocated 50%.
No, they don't even go there. Just on the lower side. Now, talk about the political influence. He has instruments of power. He has a central bank. He has the intelligence. He has the provincial administration, and the rest of the security apparatus under his control. So that is something you cannot wish away. And you know, the advantage he has, he's not a candidate. So he has all the time to watch and see who is doing what. As you guys are busy running around making noise every evening, every morning, the president gets a security brief on virtually each and every candidate. He knows who is doing what, he knows who has which numbers, where. So that's something you cannot ignore. So there are two people here. Raila, Uhuru, you cannot wish away. Ruto is a factor, but he's a candidate. Musalia is a factor, but he's a candidate. Kalonzo is a factor, he's a candidate. Raila is an undeclared candidate because he's not come out clearly to say whether he's running. And he's sending, you saw even when they set the deadline for submitting the ODM papers, he didn't. Because he is watching. And he's on record saying Ruto thinks he can become president without me. So Raila would want, the way Ruto stopped him from being president in 2013 and 2017. You know, revenge is a dish best served cold. So he would be very glad to also do what Ruto did to him by making sure that Ruto does not get the presidency. And if it means Raila not running and endorsing somebody else to make sure that Ruto does not become president, he will do it. I can tell you that for free. Two, that's why the Oka guys must also try to be strategic. You know, in Oka, Gideon has money. Most of it inherited. But he doesn't want to spend it. Our politics, money is still a major factor. He inherited Kanu. He is the son of Mzee Moi. So he inherited a big party. He inherited a big name. But he is struggling to fit in the shoes of the father. So Ruto has run him out of Rift Valley.
With all fairness,
that's the truth. He has run him out of Rift Valley. So he doesn't have much. You see, even people like Pogisho, people like the senator, Lenyagapu, were elected on Kanu. But you see, Lenyagapu has come out openly and said he will not run on Kanu in the next election. He has
formed his own party.
Yeah, you see, he's forming his own party. Because he's realizing the association with Kanu is not helping him. And you know, people were hanging around Kanu because there was a bit of money coming in and all that, and the Kanu networks. Now, when you see he has built his own money.
Should not underestimate.
And of course, Kanu has loyalists like them, you know.
Kenya, so, you know, actually, perhaps what Doc is saying.
Don't underestimate us.
I'm not underestimating them, but I'm just giving an honest opinion of what they are.
What is happening?
But you see now, Oka has a challenge. You have Musalia who wants to run. He's under a lot of pressure from the community that he must run. If he doesn't run, he becomes kaput. You have Kalonzo Musyoka who feels he's more senior.
And he is.
He is. It's true, he is. He joined the parliament in 1985. He became, he was vice president for 5 years. He has run for president in 2007. He got 894,000. Musalia was joined parliament in 89. He was vice president for 3 months. He ran, he got 47,000. So Kalonzo's argument makes sense. But the ability, the potential to draw more support is now where the challenge is. Between Kalonzo and Musalia, who will draw more support? You know, Kalonzo has the 2.2 million Kamba votes. Musalia, if he rallies the Luhya nation, and that is also a question, you know, you don't rally by making assumptions. You don't sit in Nairobi here and imagine that after running in Nyandarua, going to Murang'a and Nyeri, and the people cheering you now, the Luhyas will follow. They see that those ones are cheering you, so they endorse you. That's not how we do our politics in the Luhya nation. And I'm one of them. You have to go to the people, including your own blood brother, same mother, father, and talk to them and tell them that, look, I, Musalia Mudavadi, I want to vie for president, and as my brother Njue, I expect your support. You know, in no uncertain terms. That way they will support you, but you don't sit out here and make assumption that they will know you are running anyway. Because the Kikuyus do it that way, the Luos do it, the Kalayis, because those ones are not Luos. They are not Kikuyus, they are not Kambas, they are Luhyas. That's why they are Luhyas, and that's why we are what we are.
You think perhaps now that the Luhya nation, of course, it has factions. We have, of course, Musalia, we also have Weta.
There are no factions. There are no factions. You know, even Mount Kenya, you have seen, who says in the last elections, Raila got 95% of the vote. Which factions? Look at the numbers. In 2002, the Luhyas voted wholesale for Mwai Kibaki.
As a block.
As a block.
They are like the mountain.
Yeah. It's just like, you see, like now the mountain also is split. In 1997, in 1992, the mountain was split between Matiba and Kibaki. In 2002, the mountain was split between Kibaki and Uhuru. It's the same way the Luhyas have also been voting. So what is this narrative created, the false narrative created by the media that the Luhya has factions? There are no factions. It's only that when you have a strong, and when Raila ran in 2007, the Luhyas voted to him to the last man. Kibaki got pockets of support here and there, sections of Bungoma, because the leaders from that community, the Luhya leaders from that community, were predominantly in PNU. The other faction or the other group of the Luhyas were the other side. Look at the mountain, it's now split. You have the west and you have the east. But it's not even those ones in the west, it's not an entire block. You have Muturi and his group. You have Munya, who is not also in that group. Munya is in this group which is supposed to be the West. But you see, the media has created factions that now we have Mount Kenya East, which is largely, which is behind Muturi, and yet Munya is from there, and you have other strong leaders who are not in that group. You also have people who are from the West, but they are not, they are in that Muturi group. So you see that
Kabogo,
yes, Kabogo and all that, and there are also those who are not any of them. That is it. So you cannot balkanize a whole region and say that it's like this. You know, you even have Central, and there are people in Kanu like her, and she's very proud. She's sitting on national television, the station of the government, and saying she's Kanu and she's not ashamed, and she has no apology.
Indeed, Martin. Yes, and perhaps if that is one scenario that we can explore, but there is also another scenario looking at politics and what we've learned over the last couple of years is that there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. Doc, perhaps you can touch on this. Can we see perhaps an alliance between the former premier and Ruto? They have worked together several years. They even were 2007 they were together. Do we expect to see such kind of an alliance? Remember, politics is about interest, not about permanent enemies or friends.
I can tell you for a fact that they can't. Why? Because primarily of the handshake, because I think the deputy president viewed it as an avenue for kicking him out, and that's why he has refused to totally internalize the 9 issues that were the
9-point agenda.
The 9-point agenda of the BBI. And he has just concentrated on one which he has demonized over and over again, and has made very many of his followers not pay attention to their other 8. So he's permanently saying that BBI is for creating positions, it's for creating backdoor entry points. But I wish Kenyans can look at the BBI holistically, because like what my brother said here, that is one way of ventilating and diffusing cracks and fallouts after particularly selecting the running mate. So William Ruto and the Raila faction, all of them need BBI for them to be able to marshal the numbers that they desire. So what maybe what I would wish is that the outcome of the appeal is upheld, BBI is upheld, and we continue into the referendum, so that people run now on that new structure that we'll have 5 guys at the top that are looking more or less equal, who can be drawn from different regions, and therefore give each of the runners a semblance of the face of Kenya. So to me, BBI is a huge solution, even to what we are seeing, this polarization and personalized attacks. And the crack is really forming up right now of dividing Kenya into 2. What we saw in 2017, and I don't think any Kenyan would like that. So me thinking, if the 2 of them agree in spirit, and the BBI process resumes, and we get into the referendum, and we just change what needs to be changed, because to me, like being a woman in politics, BBI has sorted out a lot of the gender issues that have been there.
Okay, of course,
yes.
We will touch on the BBI and what will happen, and if at all the Court of Appeal rules in favor of the BBI, are we expected to see perhaps some alignments or...
It will still go to the Supreme Court.
Yes, no problem, but at the end of the day, we're going to get a judgment for the BBI, whether it's the Court of Appeal or at the Supreme Court. But looking at this other coalition, the NASA coalition that, as Martin has put it, and as the coalition partners have talked about, it is quite dead. But incidentally, some of the principals in NASA are formed OCA, that's the One Kenya Alliance, and they have invited, they extended their hand to the former premier. Of course, that is more or less another NASA, but now he might come in with the Jubilee and consolidate. Is that also an avenue? Perhaps the premier can get in the alliance and try to jostle his position to get the top seat against Mudavadi, and that he has talked about. There's Kalonzo who was also waiting, and also we have Wetangula and Gideon Moi.
Yeah, if Baba is able to convince the mountain that OCA itaunganisha wa Kenya, there is this very choreographed talk of uniting Kenyans. If he's able to convince the intelligence of the people, and convince, like I saw yesterday, all Mount Kenya governors were there apart from, I think, 2 or 3. And all of them are saying, Baba, this is the time to pay the debt. Then Gladys Wanga stood up and said in Kikuyu, hii ni wakati ya kushokia woko. This is the time to return the hand. This is the time for the mountain to support Baba. So it's very likely. Anything is likely at this moment in time. And of course, if ODM, because Kalonzo really extended the olive branch to Baba, and I don't think that was by flukes. It must have been something that was discussed behind the curtains. So if ODM joins OCA, then already Gideon Moi is there with KANU, and they're in a coalition with Jubilee. Jubilee somehow will be part of it quietly. And since there is this talk that Jubilee is dead, probably now that coalition will be rebranded and Jubilee will get assimilated inside there, and that will be the coalition that will run against UDA and affiliated coalition partners. And that is very likely.
And that you wanted to touch something on the same, and perhaps you can tie it with this. Jacon Amos, you say Martin is against Ruto, but why is he not pointing out other politicians' weakness? We need to know weaknesses of other politicians.
I have just told you that Musalia is not doing enough in the Luhya nation. Isn't that a weakness? I've said it.
And you have also said that my boss doesn't like spending money.
Isn't that a weakness? So, I mean, those are simple issues. I have also said that Raila abandoned his coalition partners, which was a mistake. Isn't that a weakness? So which other weaknesses does he want? Let him not selectively decide what he is following. Yeah. You know, he wants me to come here and sing William Ruto's praises. I will not. That is not called analysis. Analysis is you put issues the way they are, in black and white.
Okay.
You look at the numbers and you analyze them. You know, the numbers we are talking about in 2013, they are there. He can go and check. Yeah. Let him go and check the IEBC website. Yeah. Let him check the numbers of Kiambu the other day. Kiamba, they are there.
Okay. Away from that,
Kenyans, you know?
Away from that, looking at, of course, the numbers that we talked about and what or the One Kenya Alliance, the numbers that the principals are going to bring in, they have talked about welcoming the ODM leader. Let's look at what they were talking about, the political mistrust. First of all, they talked about not being actively involved, and that is why perhaps they decided to get out of NASA. Then there was the finance issue. Of course, the ODM leader and the party has decided that, of course, they are going to share the money with the other political parties. What do you see in case the former premier decides to join them as he was invited?
He can't join them. You see, Raila has more support than any of them. And he told them if they are to work together, they must be ready to go for a competitive nomination. Can any of those guys beat Raila in a competitive nomination, even if he doesn't ferry his men in black from Kibra? They cannot. That is the truth, you know.
He's a powerhouse.
In a free and fair contest, even without Raila doing the normal games he does.
But they could also, looking at the mistrust.
No, forget about, we'll talk about mistrust. There are issues of mistrust, but can they beat Raila in a free and fair contest? They
could decide.
So,
you know,
to sit down and agree on who but you see, he has told them if they are to work together, they must agree to that. And he knows they will not agree because they know none of them will beat him. So, they had a coalition agreement in 2013. CORD. You know, CORD was a coalition.
Yeah.
Musalia, Wetangula, Kalonzo and Raila. And the understanding was that Raila will not run in 2017. He still managed to dupe Kalonzo. But you see now, Kalonzo, you heard him say Oka will be spearheading. Where now, to him, it is him or Musalia being at the top. In fact, it's him. He fell short of saying, I will be the candidate. So to him, it's Raila joining to support them. That is what they are looking at. But Raila will not agree to that. If they have refused to support him a third time, Raila is not going to agree to support them the first time. Because Raila views them as junior partners. So if Raila is not going to run, I can tell you this for free. If Raila is not going to run, which is also a possibility, a serious possibility on the table, because in corridors, or occasionally walk in corridors, so I overhear what people talk about. He has sent out word that him and Uhuru might exit the scene at the same time. Okay. But you see, that is, he is weighing the options. So if he sees that his candidature is not viable, because these guys have refused, and he sees that the mountain has not impressed him, and they keep on carrying polls. They keep on quietly carrying on their own polls. He will make quite a number of forays in the mountain, and after that they will carry out a poll. He will see the reception, see whether the numbers are there or not. He will send out his pollsters quietly, the ones he trusts, at cost. He will send out the pollsters in Western, and they will be able to give him the numbers. So he is able to sit with his fellas and tell them, look, you know, there are also fellas around Raila, the Junets of this world, the Orengos of this world, who want him to be on the ballot, not because they believe he can win, but because if Raila is on the ballot, they don't spend a single cent. It secures them their seat, so they don't care whether he wins or not. Their issue is, once he is a candidate, all they'll do is to sing Baba Baba and they get their seats. After that, they don't care what happens to the old man, you know. But you know, Raila will not want to exit the political scene on a low. He will not. So he is weighing all these options, and I've told you he's been around for quite some time. He is watching the numbers. The other three guys, on their own, they have quite a bit of work to do, the four. You know, they must be able to galvanize serious support. Otherwise, they become others. Because it means the coalition which Raila would be spearheading, you know, without necessarily him being the candidate, will be very formidable. Then there will be the one of William Ruto, spearheaded by William Ruto. Then the third one now becomes this other one. And you see, if you come in as the third one, you see like now Kalonzo coming in without the governors and quite a number of support, they can very easily split the Ukambani votes. They might not necessarily split it 50-50. But you see now, the bigger question here in the elephant in the room, who between Musalia and Kalonzo becomes the candidate? So will they agree? Would Kalonzo agree to deputize Musalia? The answer is a big no. Would Musalia agree to deputize Kalonzo? The answer is a big no. So what happens? Each one of them doing a separate run? Do they have the money to run a serious presidential candidate? Do they have the money to put on the table to mount the kind of campaign that will earn you the presidency? You know, those are very serious questions that we need to ask. So there's quite a bit of work to do. But you know, some of the guys might just be positioning. Ultimately, when push comes to shove, they settle for Minister for Foreign Affairs. You rather become Minister for Foreign Affairs or Speaker of the National Assembly than going out there for another 5 years. You rather become Minister for Finance in somebody's government than going out there for another, because they have been out for 10 years. Kalonzo has been out for 10 years. Musalia has been out for 10 years. It's been
quite cold
and
for
them. It's not cheap.
It's not funny.
You know, the only guy who sustains Raila opposition politics is Raila, and he knows how to make his money even from that opposition politics. He'll call Mandaman and get donors. He will throw tear gas around and keep these guys busy until he's called on the table for a handshake. And in the process, he's able to make potatoes. These guys cannot be able to call a handshake, Mandaman, and cause havoc and paralyze the city. You know?
Away from that, perhaps, Doc, you can come in with the coalitions. Since 2002, we've just done coalitions, we've done mergers, we've done so many. And each and every election cycle, the coalition just being used as a vehicle in 2002, 2007, 2013, 2017, and now in the year 2022. The political mistrust. Why is it that they cannot ever hold on when it comes to politics? Their interest overtaking Kenyans' interests? Because
it's a very unfortunate precedence that has been set in this country as far as letting democracy mature is concerned. Because looking at what happened in 2002, NAC brought in Mwai Kibaki. And as soon as Mwai Kibaki was in the house on the hill, NAC died. When he was running for the second term, he created PNU. About 6 months to elections. And that became now the force that pushed him to his second term. And that second term was quite interesting because the post-election violence brought in the issues of Prime Minister, and we got all these guys. Then Mkate. And that's why I find people opposing BBI, and I'm like, but we already have piloted that structure of government, and to me that was really good. And that's why a lot of credit goes to Kibaki as having been a performer. It is because the space up there was occupied by otherwise troublemakers that would make his work difficult to deliver. So if we bring back what we had between 2008 2008 and 2013, we will be able to grow our economy and grow our democracy, in my view. So I'm looking at the precedents that has been set by the political parties that bring in presidents. So 2013, Uhuru buys a political party from Gideon Kariuki, and 6 months to elections. The elections were supposed to be in 2012, but they were moved to, I think, March of 2013. But 6 months to December, around June, that's when he bought the party from Gideon Kariuki. It used to be called National Alliance Party of Kenya. He came and added a T. So it became TNA, the National Alliance. And that propelled him to the house on the hill. As soon as he was there, 2016, Jubilee now
it was TNA now and
TNA URP. That was a coalition, but TNA is the one that really took him to State House.
In 2017 it was Jubilee.
In 2017, now the coalition became one party. So you see, there is no political party that delivers a presidency that lasts more than 2 years, apart from my party that lasted 40 years. You know, and me, what I'm telling people, instead of going to start registering new parties and stuff like that, why don't we just go back home? Why can't all these guys come back home and we are here with open arms to receive them?
Either way, Doc.
No.
Doc is campaigning for her party, but
we are talking about the faces.
We are looking at the coalition.
Yes.
we understand the Baba and Mama.
There are reasons
but
why
of
we
course
left
it hasn't been doing very well
Mama.
politically. So perhaps that's why you're campaigning for it. But at the end of the
we are
day,
doing well. By
yes,
the way.
you're doing well. But you will need a coalition based on trust. You see the NASA principles move out of NASA. They go form the One Kenya Alliance, and then
have they moved out of NASA, or they have just decided? They have just decided that
there's a lot of
ODM is not one of them.
There's a lot of political mistrust.
No, they have just decided that ODM is not part of them. And on the flip side, they are like, ODM, please come and join
their support.
Or OKA. So there is double speak or speaking between words as far as the formations and their realignments are concerned. But like he put it, it's still very early in the day, because we have seen all those parties that have delivered a presidency never lasted more than 8 months. So 1 year to elections
waiting for something big.
is good time. What they are doing is preparation. And there's going to be one coalition now. The OKA Alliance and ODM and Jubilee will form one coalition. That's what I can predict and project.
Seems to be looking into the same crystal ball. I'm looking at, but Mr. Ndati, because of the interest of time, we need to pick up the pace. Now we have the BBI that is expecting a ruling in the next 20-something days, next 3 weeks or something. What happens? Let's say the Court of Appeal decides that the reggae can go on. Does that form the basis or a foundation for new alliances, if at all, the reggae?
You know, the way the judgment of the constitutional bench was structured, you can't overturn all those orders. You can only overturn some of them. So whichever way it goes, it will end up in the Supreme Court. And once it goes to the Supreme Court, we are talking of November, December. By November, December, certain timelines will have been overtaken by events. You can't create new constituencies. There are certain things you can't do. You can't even have the referendum. There will be challenges. Because as IEBC is structured, you know, we are still recruiting the commissioners, which maybe in another 2-3 weeks, we should have known the new commissioners. Then there will be debate on, do we continue retaining the current commissioners? Because there are people who feel the commissioners are, the ones who are in office are badly compromised. You've heard her complain about tallying. And you know, tallying is just adding 1, 2, 3. Even guys with PhD like this one are unable to add. It really shocks me in this country that people cannot agree. In a by-election where the numbers are not high, people cannot agree that you add 1, 20, 30, 50 until you agree on the numbers. I mean, we have a country that does not have common sense. So whichever way the Court of Appeal rules, there will be appeal in the Supreme Court. Give it another maybe up to November, December. So that's whichever way it goes, that reggae will not be back. And that's why I've told you, the guy who is going to get power is not the guy who does the largest rally out there. It is a person who is able to build the best, broad-based coalition. Two, she's explained something when you asked her about coalitions. The parties come in, even 6 months to the election. They came in, Uhuru came in very late with the TNA, rebranded that NAP Kenya and turned it into TNA. And it won elections.
3 months.
Kibaki Tosha, 3 months to elections. NAP was born. We got these other coalition, PNU, 3-4 months to elections, and it won elections. So this hype about running all over and people thinking that that is a formation that will win elections is a lie. And I told you from the beginning, we might not even have Oka Kenya in the next few months. In fact, NASA died the moment they lost the elections. The moment Raila went into bed with Jubilee. That was it. Jubilee died the moment they won elections because Uhuru now was president. He didn't see the need of having the party because those coalitions are basically special purpose vehicles. So you create them for a particular purpose. So once you serve the purpose, you have no business retaining the vehicle. You know, you are done. You have crossed the bridge. You don't intend to come back on this other side. So you destroy the bridge. That's what they are, you know. Of course, our democracy is growing. No, it's good. You see, even Americans are 260 years. They now have 2 clear formations. Britain has 2 formations. Occasionally, they go to 3. But you see, look at the years it has taken. Now, our democracy is still growing. We are only headed to 60 years. So our democracy is still growing. Ultimately, we will end up with 2 clear formations. You know? And
which is likely to be Kanu.
No, which is good. No, Kanu will just be part of them. You know, Kanu is part of our history, and we cannot wish it away. But there are also the bad manners which Kanu was associated with, and we hope they are now the Kanu fresh. They are going to.
As you said, they will require, of course.
They need a lot of rebranding, and you see, they need people who can think and help them rebrand.
Guys, because of time,
behaving the way they are behaving, and sitting there and complacent and thinking that. They can do it the way they were with the old Jogo. It will not help them.
Okay. 2 minutes each before we wind up. A minute each. Looking at there was a research that was carried out in the months of June, July that shows 78% of Kenyans talking about the country not headed in the right direction. Of course, because of the economy. Of course, there's a COVID pandemic, corruption, and a myriad of issues facing the country. But all the coalition, all the politicians, each and every day they're touching on the economy. Are they just using it? Because, of course, the Kenyan economy has not been doing well for the last couple of years.
Yes.
Are they just using that as a vehicle in the run-up to the 2022 succession politics?
Yeah, and they are misusing even the word economy. Because government, both levels, national and county, are responsible for the poor performance of the economy. One of the biggest contributor is just refusing to pay contractors
and suppliers.
I have worked in the county, and every time you get the list of pending bills, and contractors come to your office, they want to be paid. You are so helpless because you can't pay, because whoever gave the contract did not consider budget, because it was supposed to pay political returns.
Yes.
For people who supported the governor to come in, they have to be given contracts, and therefore they have to be. So that is what has created across the board. So right now, pending bills stand at 160 billion. If that was paid and injected back in the economy would do well. So an analysis that apportions the blame to the president is extremely biased.
He must also take part of the blame.
And it is not real. The county government, the Council of Governors and the national government must pay pending bills for our economy to revamp.
In 30 seconds, Mr. Ndati.
We have, people are hurting. You saw the numbers yesterday.
Yes.
In 3 months, you have over 400 people who have committed suicide.
Yes.
And you see, those are the ones who have been reported. So the numbers could be much higher. There is a lot of distress. If you go up market, you get so many vacant houses. COVID has wiped away this thing they were calling the middle class. And the middle class must come out of the comfort zones because there are no more comfort zones anymore. COVID has wiped away the mortgages. COVID has wiped away the thinking that you have Medicare. It's a lie. The COVID effects are not covered by that cover. The car you took on mortgage is being repossessed. The wife you took on mortgage, the owners want to repossess her. So that is how bad it is, you know. And, and there are no jobs. And there is no hope. And the market is saturated, so nobody is buying. Move around Kilimani, around Kileleshwa, Upper Hill.
Yes.
You get mamas out there hanging there up to 8, up to 7 in the evening, hoping that somebody will call them to go and wash their clothes to get something for to buy food for their kids. So there has not been as much empathy and sympathy for the people out there. The government has tried in terms of the PPF, although we sold some of the donations to Tanzania and Ethiopia, which is very shameless of us. But we need to do more, and we must exercise empathy and sympathy. And the middle class must push the political class to address the real issues. The real issues in a sober way. And the economists need to ask, when you are told bottom up, ask them, has this model ever worked elsewhere? Who has come up with this? And you know, it's not just the other guys also criticizing what Ruto is doing. They must also tell us what Ruto is offering is not good. Our option will be this.
Okay.
Not just saying,
and I can see Amos Sakaja was saying tribalism will continue leading Kenyans. That's why what I can predict may be. And Kenyans should really stop that in order to get a true leader. Of course, a lot there. Also, somebody is saying a very good, very eloquent and inclusive panel. That is Mungai Njuguna. Jacob Amos, thank you. I can see your comment. Abdallah Yusuf, you also tuned in. Unfortunately, I won't be able to sample all your responses, but thank you indeed so much for watching. This has been News Check. I'm giving the baton to my colleague Gladys Mungai with the Kurunzi Mashinani, and of course Tamrin will be coming up next. I've been hosting Martin Ndati, apologies, and of course Dr. Juliet Kimemia. This is KBC. My name is Njue. Thanks indeed for watching. Let's continue the conversation in our social media platform.
2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Hi.
Nissan Serena ndio hii, na unaweza kuwa wewe ndio tunapikia simu. Kodi ya Nissan Serena ni NS, alafu kisha kwenye amount ni 50 bob. Hii Nissan Serena tunakupatia na shilingi 50.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill, kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Yaani nyinyi mkiwa na wanawake mnawadharau, ndo kazi yenu, sio?
Je, kama hawa watu wangekutendea unyama, you are supposed to be on my side.